Guys, I can't even begin to tell you how excited I am to finally be on this episode. The whole thing started about 3 months ago. Up until that point, this channel was really just for myself. I started it up with the expectation that I really wouldn't be getting many views. And more than anything, I just really wanted to have a way to record all of my progress and just see where I came from in all of these builds. Because all the previous Minecraft worlds that I'd made up to this point, you know, I might have made a lot of progress here and there, but it was always just a little bit sad that I didn't have like a very good record of exactly where I came from, what things used to look like. And this channel was really just my way of saying, I want to have a record of what I've done. I want to be able to look back in a couple years and see where I've come from, how I've grown. And don't get me wrong, that's still a really big goal that I have. But about 3 months ago was when this channel started to really take off, and I went from getting 20 views on a video to having 2 videos in a row that were over 1,000. People, and by people I mean you guys, were watching these videos and enjoying them, and in that moment, everything just completely changed for me. I was still making the videos for me because, I mean, how could I not? But I also felt a really huge responsibility all of a sudden to continue improving not just my building, but also my editing, the way I talk during videos, the music, just everything. And this project is really a big part of that. I wanted it to be big, yes. I wanted it to be detailed, of course. But more than anything, I just really see this as a symbol of my dedication to the channel, and that going forward, this channel is going to be so much more than just a way for me to record my progress and see where I've come from. It's going to be a journey that I'm going on with all of you guys, and I'm just so excited for where it's going to go. But along with that excitement comes more than a little bit of fear, because I'm trying to complete all of this in one episode, and discounting all of the resource gathering down there, which we absolutely can't discount. Just building up all of this has been probably like 10-11 hours of work. It's kind of mind-blowing actually, and if it weren't for the Christmas holidays and everything going on, I definitely wouldn't have even the slightest chance of finishing it. But even with all that extra time, I can't afford to let up for a second, so I'm gonna do just a little bit more building, and then I'll bring you back and talk about the build itself a little bit more. I feel like having this mountain behind here looks so much better than just having the blue sky. I really can't place what exactly it was about it that I didn't really like, but oh, this just looks so much better. And with so much more of the mountain in here, I think it'll be so much easier for me to go through my thought process and how I designed this. Because if I go into free cam, you can see we've got these flat areas all throughout. And that was really the central foundational principle that I built everything around. You see, I want this entire mountain range right here to be a part of the village. So the village starts down here, but we're going to have houses that go all the way up the mountain. There's going to be paths going through it. We're going to have other central sections of the village, and that will all culminate in this large area up here where we'll have all sorts of village houses, maybe a couple more farms. And since the rest of the mountains aren't put in, it's still a little bit hard to tell, but this is situated right in a little nook in the mountains. And I think it's just going to look so cool, especially from down here. You know, if you can just imagine the mountains back behind here coming up above and then over on this side, it's going to look so amazing. But that's the big reason that I have all of these path looking areas going through. That's really just to indicate where exactly the village is going to go. And of course you can see little areas like this where I haven't really done all that much with it, because despite how detailed all this is, I still think it's best to think of this as a blank slate that we can work on. Eventually we're going to have all sorts of different details in here. We'll have paths going up and around. This will be covered with greenery. It's going to be amazing. But for now, we're just focused on getting the background in. And I know I keep saying background, but in some ways, I guess it just doesn't really do justice to all the amount of time and effort that I put into these. Because there really was a lot of different iterations that I went through to finally get what you're looking at now. And actually, since I don't have this all lit up, I usually sleep at night, but let me come down here so you can get a look at it at nighttime. Yes, we've got all the texturing going on here, but I also tried to texture this, and this is still just really basic to give you a general idea, but I also want to texture this with light. Because like I said, eventually we're going to have this village go all the way up through the mountains. And just the idea of having these little lit up areas where we've got the village and then the darker mountaintops above. Oh, I just think it's gonna look so, so cool once we get everything put in. Just looking at this makes me so excited for the future. But we've still got a lot to do, so I need to kind of stay focused. I'll get to building here again in a second, but first I want to go up close and give you a little bit of a look at some of the details that I have put in here. And the first thing you might notice, besides, well, like some of the holes that I left in here, totally intentionally. Yes, this was absolutely intentional. But as I continued through the process of building this mountain, I got all the shapes in place, and of course that's important, but when it came to deciding what blocks I want to make it out of, I really got to thinking about texturing. You know, for smaller builds, we do some light texturing, or maybe we'll even do some more intense texturing like on the library. We've got the cliffs that I did with tough and deep slate, and even with the buildings, we've got the bridge with all these different types of stone, we've got the granite and bricks on this building, the bridge with different types of wood, all the different mossy stones, and tough and cracked bricks in here. I mean, texturing is really, really important for modern Minecraft building. But on something of this scale, I felt like we needed something a little bit more. And so if I go back into FreeCamp, you can see the entire mountain is made up of several different block palettes. We've got the really obvious moss up on top, and then the paths going on around. But then we've also got the darker areas with the cobbled deep slate and the polished deep slate and the gray terracotta. But then we've got these lighter patches as well, made out of tough and mossy cobble and a little bit of acacia wood and light gray terracotta. And so essentially, if you think about it, I created two different textures and then textured the entire mountain using those textures. Hopefully that makes sense. And while this was my first time doing something like this, so I'm sure I didn't do it perfectly, I'm still really happy with how it turned out because we've got these lighter textures that really blend into the green, which is why I used like the mossy cobblestone. And I tried to focus that into the areas where I have lots and lots of moss. So you'll see a lot of these lower areas, they're going to be mostly these lighter colors. You can see even up here on these bigger mountains, all up around the mossy areas, we've got mostly these lighter colors. Whereas for the main areas, I had these dark textures. And that was super important because you remember the lore for this area is that we've got really rocky soil that's mostly made up of these dark cobblestone type rocks. You know, if we go to any of the areas where I've done terraforming, you can see we've got all of this dark rock in here. We've got, well, this isn't, this still needs a lot of work, but this is darker as well. And then over here on this side as well, it's all this really gray into dark brown. That's actually one of the reasons why I like this fence so much, because you can really tell the difference between the rich people's fence made out of all imported rocks, and then you can come down here to the slightly more shabby, dark stoned cobblestone fence that, you know, all the poor people are doing. Because of course they don't have the money to import all of that nice light stone. Although between you and me, I actually like this one a lot better. But I think before I do too much more yapping about all of this, how I designed this stuff, we should probably get a little bit more work done in here. Because yeah, as much as we've got done, whoops, there we go. But yeah, saying that we're halfway done is probably a little bit optimistic. We've got these three, well, this little tiny peak, and then the little medium-sized one over here, and then the big massive one. Would you believe me if I told you, oops, that was weird. Would you believe me if I told you that this peak right here, the one that's already significantly taller than the first mountain we made, is actually only the fourth tallest peak in this entire range? Oh boy, there's absolutely no way I finished this, is there? It is currently 10:10 p.m. on January the 1st, 2025. I've sunk somewhere close to 30 hours on placing blocks on this mountain, and believe it or not, I still don't regret it. I may or may not be developing carpal tunnel in my hand, and my family may be forgetting what I look like considering how much time I spent locked in this room, but I mean, it's worth it, right? No, I'm just kidding. I actually had a wonderful holiday. I did spend most of Christmas Day here on the mountain, but I still had a really good time. We have a little mini family tradition where I go to what's basically a dollar store here, and I just buy a whole bunch of little tiny gifts and put them in stockings, and then everybody opens them up after we eat dinner. It's nothing huge, kind of a little bit understated, but it's always a lot of fun. Actually, Christmas here in Korea isn't quite as big of a deal as it is in a lot of other places. The really big holiday coming up is the Lunar New Year, but I mean, it's still a national holiday, so can't really complain. I'd like to say we're nearing the end of this project, but this big empty spot here in the middle, we've still got to fill it with mountain. In fact, I'm pretty sure this central mountain is bigger than all of these other peaks combined, so I really ought to get back to work. Of course, the good news is that I've already finished the back. You can see I was going for a vaguely mountain-shaped blob of darkness. You can see here the blackness of the blob really contrasts nicely against the blue of the sky. And the part I'm really proud of is I actually added in some natural shading using, well, shade. No, but seriously, don't expect the back of this to be done anytime soon. This has just been so much work, and I mean, I'm never gonna be going over there, at least not for a very long while. But I'm gonna be completely honest, I'd like to say more and add a little bit more context in between these big, long time lapses, but I'm kind of getting down to the wire here where I'm not even sure if I'm actually gonna be able to get this video out in time. So I'm just gonna get back to work. I really hope you guys are enjoying the time lapses. I understand this episode is really time lapse heavy and some people aren't super into that, but this episode is kind of unique and we're really close to the end anyway, so just bear with me a little bit longer. Looking back, it all feels so surreal, and I'm not just talking about this project. The fact that over the course of a single year, we took this normal little plains village and turned it into this is just mind-blowing to me. This is normally the part of the video where I talk about details of the build or mention things that I liked or didn't like about it, and I have tons to say in regards to all of that, but for now, I think I'm content to just sit back and enjoy the view. Thank you so much to everyone who took the time to watch this video. I had a blast making this one, and I'm looking forward to another fantastic year on this journey with you guys.